Hi, I'm Stanley. I'm the resident printmaker here at howtoink. Thank you for purchasing our Linocut printmaking kit for beginners. I'll be here to guide you through the whole process of creating your first lino print. And for those who are trying this for the first time, lino printing is basically rubber stamp making. It is a form of relief printing which originated from wood carving. And what we are going to do here today will be a process of reduction in order to create raised surfaces to print. And without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, let's walk through the kit. And inside we have all the essential tools to make your print. First, you will see our instruction manual, which you have scanned the QR code for this video tutorial. It also has the instruction written out step by step for your reference, which will come in very handy for you. Okay, now let's unwrap it and see what are the content inside. Within the kit, you have all that you will need to create your first lino print. First and most important is our linocutter, which doubles as a barren. The blades are inside. Next is the ink roller, also known as a brayer. This is about 3 inches and is suitable for small prints. A small tub of black relief ink. And the ink knife to scoop the ink out. There is also a pencil and sharpener for design transfer. 2 pieces of soft linoleum. A slip mat. Few pieces of cartridge paper to print on. And the design template is inside as well. And lastly, an acrylic inking plate. And we have finally emptied the box. And let me lay them out properly for a better overview. And here is what you should have in your kit. First, you have to transfer your design onto the linoleum. So for this part, you have to prepare the sharpener, pencil, a piece of linoleum, and the design template. While there are various ways to do so, for this kit, we are going with graphite transfer. It is similar in logic to carbon paper copy. Within the kit are pre-selected designs, but you can also reference an image off the internet. Or you can draw directly onto the linoleum or reference an image on your smartphone. So set your smartphone brightness to its maximum, then you place the blank paper on top of your screen as trace. The design can be transferred via the graphite transfer method I'm going to show you later. After you make a decision on the design, we can proceed to the next step. To do graphite transfer, you will need to pick out the pencil and shade the back of the design. Make sure you have shaded the entire design area and try to shade it as dark as possible, so afterwards when you are doing the tracing, the transfer will be easier. To check, hold it up against the light. And from this angle, you can see very clearly how much the shading covered on the design. And let me touch up a bit more on the shading. Once the shading is complete, you are ready to transfer onto the linoleum. Take note of the 2 sides of the linoleum. You'll be able to tell the difference by running your fingers over the 2 surfaces. Place the paper on the smooth side, with the design facing up. To transfer, simply outline the design with the pencil. Make sure to hold the paper in place while doing so for an accurate transfer. You can check the progress of your tracing by lifting the paper halfway through and check whether make sure the transfer is done properly. And now I'm going to show you some troubleshooting techniques in case you shift the paper. If you did shift the paper, you can adjust the placement by flipping quickly up and down and moving it accordingly. This quick flipping movement will allow you to see whether you did the placement correctly. Let's do a quick check. You can see the transfer, some parts are not on the linoleum. No worries, we can touch up later. So the transfer is done. Remove the design to touch out or darken the design on the linoleum. As you can see right now, the lines are very faint, so we can use the pencil and trace it over again to darken it. As it is graphite, you can also erase with an eraser or by rubbing it with your fingers. Remember to shade parts of the design that will be printed, which is the black colored parts on your design template. Those are the parts you are not going to cut. There will be the raised surfaces of which the ink will register and create your print. After done shading on the linoleum, you can put the design template side by side to check the accuracy of the transfer. If you are happy with it, you can proceed to the next step. And now to cut. We will need a linocutter. Here's how to assemble it. Twist the handle to unscrew from the barrel. Inside is a compartment with a metal cap and 5 blades. For this workshop, you will be only using 3. So let's remove the 2 blades. So the first one will be this big U shape. We are doing very small prints, so we don't need such a big blade to cut. You can see from this edge, it's quite wide. Okay, then the next blade will be this flat blade. Yeah, it's used for slicing, and we know we need this as well. So the 3 blades we'll be using, let's start off with the medium U. You can tell from this edge it's a medium U shape. Then next will be this medium V. Yeah, you can see side by side and compare. Yeah, there's a big difference. And lastly, the smallest blade in this set will be the small V shape. And this V shape cutter, we'll be using it very, very often. So to assemble the lino cutter, pick up the handle and place the cap on top. Then insert the blunt side of the blade into the slot within the handle. Tighten the cap to hold the blade in place. And there you go, you assemble the lino cutter. And now you can keep the rest of the parts in the compartment, close it up and put it aside. Now you will need to know how to effectively hold and use the lino cutter. Place your index finger on the metal cap, regardless of whether you are left or right-handed. The bottom part of the handle will be the point where you exert force to push the lino cutter. Wrap your hand around the handle like holding a fork, and there you have it. And the movement to cut is always one direction, from bottom to the top. Let's start practicing a bit. You can use the linoleum you prepared previously, and you can practice on the side of the linoleum. Before cutting, take note of this flat part of the blade. Place this flat side to the linoleum surface. This is a gauge for you to know whether the blade is resting fully on the surface. Use the force from your palm to exert force while tilting slightly at the angle to cut or gouge. The higher you tilt, the deeper and wider the cut or gouge will be. The other hand, make sure you hold the linoleum in place. You'll be able to feel the cutting resistance if you do it correctly. Now let's take a closer look at the ways of using the lino cutter. So now for close-up, we'll use this small V blade and do a simple cut straight line. You can tell how easy it comes off. One thin strip. And there you go. And next, we're going to do curves. You can go by a zigzag motion, left and right. So in this way, you can get a hang of the movement of how to use this lino cutter. Do take note on this important safety measure. Never place your hand in front of the lino cutter. It can slip off the linoleum and push the blade towards your hands. Remember to place the free hand behind the lino cutter. For more precise control, place your free index finger on the blade of the lino cutter to apply slight pressure. And that's the reason why this blade has a hollow area for you to place your finger. This will help prevent the blade from slipping, and it can reduce extra force while cutting. And if you intend to use the linocutter this way, no worries about the linoleum slipping off. We have included the slip mat for this purpose. Just place the slip mat below the linoleum and we'll hold the linoleum in place. Now we have completed the handling of the linocutter. We can try using the other blades and see how it cuts. To change blade, just loosen the metal cap and swap the blade. I will be using the medium U blade and show you how this blade cuts. The cutting process is the same as previous. Rest the bottom of the blade to the linoleum surface, tilt out slightly and push. You can see this medium U cuts deeper and wider. You can see the difference side by side. You can pull off the slice bit on the linoleum and pull it outwards so it won't damage the part you are not supposed to cut off. Now let me change back to my small V blade and I will show you the difference of tilting the blade higher and lower. This will affect the depth of the gouge. The slip mat is a personal preference. I prefer without it. Now I'm cutting with a higher tilt and the other I will cut with a lower tilt. And now you can see side by side there will be a difference. So for me personally, I always cut with the smallest V blade because if I ever make any mistake, it won't be much damage. And I'm able to control the depth and width by tilting the blade appropriately. And with that, you have learned how to use the linocutter. To start cutting the design, we will be using the small V blade. It will be more precise and used to cut the outline of the design. This sets a boundary between parts to be cut out and those which are remain untouched, which are the shaded parts. I suggest using the small V blade for the smaller details as well. There is no right or wrong way to start. You can start by cutting anywhere you wish to, as long as you don't cut the shaded parts. You can shift the linoleum around as you cut so the blade will follow the design cutout, as long as your fingers are not in front of the linocutter. As mentioned earlier on the slip mat, if you need more grip to hold the linoleum in place, you can use it here. Now I'm going to demonstrate how to cut the corner. Cut out all the way until you reach the end of the corner. Now I'm going to show you the other way of removing the cutout bit other than plucking out. You can remove it by flicking the blade upwards to slice off the bit. Now you can see this cut stops at this corner. So to resume this cutting on the other corner, you place the blade on the gouge part. You'll feel the blade sits in the groove. And when you exert slight push, you can feel the tip of the blade is partly inside the gouge. Now you can proceed to finish the corner from this side. When going into curves, you can guide the blade around it while rotating the linoleum, just like using the sewing machine. Okay, sometimes you can't flick it out, so you just pull it out. After you're done cutting the outline, you will get a better idea of how to further remove the rest of the negative area. Like I mentioned before, it is a process of reduction. Before you continue finishing cutting up the outline and removing the negative area, I'm going to demonstrate how to cut circles. Cutting circles is quite straightforward. Think of it as cutting swirls. So the starting point is at the edge of the outer circle, then you end it at the center of the circle. There will be two movements here. One is rotating the linoleum, and the other is applying pressure to push and guide the linocutter to swirl into the center of the circle. And take your time to do it, don't rush. And now, as you can see, the circle is slowly cutting out, it's taking shape. As you slowly cutting towards the inner part of the circle, the center part, it will just come off. And the swirl pattern you can see is there. The circle is quite big, so one swirl is not enough to empty out everything inside the circle. So you need to go another one more round to clear again. Now you can see the part that's not clear, so you just follow the swirl and cut again, the part that is uncut, and just follow it through. That's like what you did previously. And in the center there will be one small remaining bit, and you just gouge it out and flip out. And there, you're done. You just done your first complete circle. And for those, their design template doesn't have a circle shape, you can always draw at the negative part and try practicing cutting your own circles as well. When you're happy with the outline and the details, you can clear out the remaining negative portions with the medium or large U blade. As you can see, when you are done cutting most of the design details, the reduction has created a raised surface on the area which you're not supposed to cut. Since the linoleum piece here is quite small, you don't necessarily need a large U blade. For this demonstration, I'll be using the medium U blade. You can either use V or U medium cutting blade and trim out the negative portion. When doing clearing, always gouge outwards rather than inwards to minimize cutting into your design. Simply place your linocutter on the outline and push outwards. Take note on your exerting force while using the medium U blade. It cuts deeper and faster, so please be very careful. In regards to making mistakes while cutting, it is very common. We call it happy accidents. Sometimes the cutting mistake will somehow damage the overall aesthetic of the design. Sadly, there's no undo function for lino cutting. You can try fixing it by trimming it in a way that it looks like it is part of the design. End of the day, just embrace it, learn from this experience, and do better next time. Once the clearing up is complete, you can see a relief with a raised surface for printing. As you can see from here, when using medium U blade, the gouge out part from it appears rougher than the one cut out from the small V blade. If you are doing texture next time, this is something you can take note of. Before proceeding to the next step, please do clean up the cutout bits, because these bits will get caught in the print if it's lying all over the table. Here's the exciting part where you finally get to print your own design. Prepare the paper, ink roller or ink brayer, ink knife, slip mat, inking plate, and the relief ink. First, you have to ready your inking plate. Peel off both sides of the protective sheet and place the plate on the slip mat. It will help hold the plate in place while you roll the ink. You can also use any smooth waterproof surface as inking plate. And you can try rolling the ink roller on it to make sure it has grip. You can take out some paper from the pad. Inside it has test print paper and cartridge paper for final print. The test print paper will be the softer one, and we'll be using that first. And you can keep the rest of the paper aside. Make sure that it is kept properly to prevent any ink staining on the clean paper. Now you can prepare your linoleum to be ready for your first test print. Open up the relief ink by giving a twist on the lid. The relief printing ink is tacky, allowing it to stick to the linoleum for transfer onto the paper. Use the ink knife to scoop a small amount onto the center of the inking plate. After that, place the ink knife on top of the ink tub or place it at the edge of the inking plate. It is a good practice to observe ink discipline. Make sure you don't misplace anything that contacts with ink, or else it might stain your printing materials. Pick out your ink roller to spread the ink. Press down and drag the ink for a bit to flatten it. This is to soften the tacky ink so it will be easier to roll. And roll within the ink roller's width, up and down, left and right. You're looking to spread the ink evenly on the roller, which you can tell while listening to the tackiness of the ink. You can hold the inking plate for a while until the ink evens up. The ink will be ready for coating on the linoleum when it's spread out evenly. I enjoy rolling the ink. This is my favorite process, so I might take a while. When you're ready to print, place the linoleum beside the inking plate so you can apply it easily. With your ink roller evenly coated with ink, gently roll on the linoleum. The key is not to apply too much pressure, as the ink roller will compress the soft linoleum and get ink onto the negative portion. Don't worry, as this requires some practice, particularly with larger prints. You can tell from the light glistering on the ink surface. If it's too shiny, it's too wet. If it's too matte, it's too dry. After done rolling on the linoleum, you will notice there are some parts coated with ink on the negative part. This shows during the curing process you missed cutting it out. But no worries, this is the reason why we do test print. We can fix this later after we're done with the test print. Now you also need the barren, so unscrew your linocutter and reassemble it back to its original form. You can also use any flat objects to use as a barren, like paperweight or even a wooden spoon. Now this linocutter is a barren. To use it, you will have to press and gently twist to apply contact pressure on top of the paper. Before that, align the paper as you please and place your paper on top of the ink linoleum. Place the barren on the paper, apply pressure and twist. Your free hand will be holding the paper in place. Make sure the barren has pressure contact on the paper from all parts of the raised surface on the linoleum. You can slightly lift the paper at the corner to check if the ink has been transferred. Your free hand can hold the paper in place just in case you need to press the print more. If you are satisfied with the print, you can lift the whole paper up. And congratulations! This is your very first lino print. You might see some lines from the negative portion, but that's alright. You can use this first print as a test print and reference it to see what parts needs to be refined or fixed. To refine it, assemble your linocutter and start trimming those lines. Afterwards, we go for a second print and see the difference. Careful with the linoleum cut bits, don't let it get into the inking plate. If it gets caught inside, the ink coating will be uneven. After you are satisfied with removing the cut lines, you can apply a fresh coat of ink on the linoleum and prepare to print your next piece. Some prefer to have the lines remain there as it looks more organic, some prefer it to be as clean as possible and can continue to clean up. You can easily wash off the ink with water before doing so and reapply a fresh coat when you are ready to print again. You notice after I apply a new coat of ink, the cut line where it used to be has been removed. Prepare a new piece of paper and later on assemble the barren to print. Now you can see that this print is much more cleaner than the previous one. You notice at this part, there is slight patchiness, which could be two possible reasons. Either I didn't apply enough pressure on that part, or I didn't coat enough ink on it. We have come to the end of this tutorial, but we do hope that's not the end of your Linocut journey. There's an additional piece of linoleum in this kit, so go ahead and experiment with this new technique. I hope you enjoyed this basic lino printing kit. We would love to see all the lino prints that you have made, so make sure to tag us at howtoink on Instagram and Facebook. And if this kit has sparked your curiosity in printmaking, we have advanced workshops on lino print and other printmaking techniques, such as silkscreen and marbling. Lastly, do check out our website or join our newsletter for latest updates on our workshops, or simply drop us an email if you have any inquiries. Once again, thank you for your support, and we hope to see you soon.